I'm back and we are continuing the Amanda Ribas versus Mackenzie Dern fight card. Let's get right into it. But before we do, make sure you remember this Saturday we will be live streaming the watch party for this fight card. Let's go. To continue us off, we have Roman Kopylov versus Chris Curtis. Kopylov is 13-3. His country is Russia. He stands as 6 foot tall. He weighed at 185 pounds and his last win has a reach of 75 inches and a leg reach of 41 inches. While Chris Curtis, on the other hand, is 31-11. His country is United States of America. He stands at 5 foot 10 inches tall. He also weighed at 185 pounds and his last win has a reach of 75.5 inches and a leg reach of 40 inches. Kopylov has a 1 inch leg reach advantage. Chris Curtis has a 0.5 inch reach advantage. Kopylov also has a 2 inch height advantage and he has less wins and less losses. Chris Curtis has been in the game for a long time, much longer than Kopylov at least. So Curtis has the experience in all aspects of the combat sports, but where is his best aspects? We're going to find out as we move on to the win buys. 85% of Roman Kopilov's wins are coming by knockout, 0% of them are by submission, 15% are by decision, an average fight time sitting around 11 minutes, and a knockdown average of 1. While Chris Curtis, on the other hand, has a 55% KO/TKO, 3% submission, so he has some submissions, a 42% decision with an average fight time sitting around 12 minutes and a knockdown average of 0. Chris Curtis is a more fairly well-rounded fighter as he can get submissions. He has hardly any, but he still has some. And Kopylov has no submissions, very rarely gets a decision win, but most of his wins, over half of both of their wins, are coming by knockouts. But I'd say Kopylov is a lot more dangerous on the feet. Don't get me wrong, Chris Curtis, action man, dangerous, has so much more experience, knows what he could be doing in there, probably has a good game plan to go in there. Kopylov can look at all of Chris Curtis' fights. Kopylov has a lot more tape on Action Man than Curtis has on Kopylov. Kopylov could look at all these fights and be like, okay, this is how he roughly plays throughout each fight and understand how his game plan is going to be. Chris Curtis, yes, he can do the same, but Kopylov still has room to improve, has a lot more time to improve than Chris Curtis does. Where Chris Curtis is coming towards the end of his career, Kopylov is coming up into probably the middle half of his career very shortly. Average fight times is a key thing to look at as well, because they have both had decision wins. Their average fight time is fairly higher than other fighters. The knockdowns, those two roughly get a knockdown per 15 minutes in, I'm assuming that's their previous fight, the knockdown average they knock people down, or how average they've knocked people down in all their fights together. I think Kopylov is a lot more, well, I think that there's evidence. Kopylov is a lot more deadly on the feet with his striking, but Curtis is still deadly as well. But let's move on to significant strikes to see if it is on the feet, to see who can get it done. With Chris Curtis having an average of 6 punches landed per minute, a 51% significant strikes, an average of 6 punches absorbed per minute with a defense of 52%. While Roman Kopylov, on the other hand, has an average of 4 punches landed per minute, 54% significant strikes, an average of 4 punches absorbed per minute with a defense of 58%. As you can see there, Kopylov does less, but does better. He absorbed less in his previous fight. His opponent didn't really output as much. Kopylov landed quite a bit, so he outputted quite a bit, but didn't land as much. And his significant strike percentage is a lot better than Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis had to land a lot more to have a fairly high significant strike percentage. Over half of both of their strikes are significant, but Chris Curtis needs to try and land with a lot more power coming into this one, because Kopylov is much more deadlier, in my opinion, on the feet. Look at the defense. He has a 58% better defense than Curtis does. Fair play to them both for having a higher defense than half, but Kopylov is a lot better in this aspect. So if it does go on the feet, I'm edging it to Kopylov. But let's move on to the grappling to see how they performed in the grappling in their previous fight. Chris Curtis had an average of 0 takedowns, a 0% takedown accuracy, and 82% takedown defense with a submission average of 0. While Roman Kopylov, on the other hand, had an average of 1 takedown, 53% takedown accuracy, 87% takedown defense, and a submission average of 0. Again, Kopylov looks better. Based off their previous fight, if we just talk about their previous fight, Kopylov did a lot better than Curtis did in the striking and in the grappling. Kopylov had more takedown average. I'm assuming Chris Curtis didn't even attempt a takedown. I hope so, because he didn't get a single one. Kopylov had over half of his takedowns. Kopylov's takedown accuracy was over half, and his takedown defense was just a tiny bit better than Curtis. They both can get taken down, but they both have fairly good takedown defense. I'm gonna say Kopylov should try and avoid takedowns at all costs, and Curtis should try and go for a takedown and get it down, because Kopylov is a lot more deadlier and would do a lot more better. But that's just my thoughts, my opinions for this one. Who do you think wins and how do you think win? Apart from that, I'll catch you in a bit. Take care and peace.